What's up, everyone, and welcome to Shared Save the Game Media's weekly gaming discussion podcast. I am your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're talking about PlayStation shutting down Bluepoint Games. We have lots of new details about Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6, and is Sony Santa Monica's next game coming sooner than we think? Before we get to that and more, introducing my co-host who's having a lovely day, Sam Heaney. How are you, my friend?
What a lovely day. What a lovely day. I'm doing okay, all things considered. I'm doing pretty good personally. Generally, a bit bummed out for obvious reasons. But, the sky isn't falling yet. Heavy use on the word yet there. So I'm going to try and be level-headed, pragmatic, but also be pretty heavily critical this episode. So how are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay. I think yesterday was a really bad mental health day for me personally. It was one of those, like, I'm going to bed early tonight, and I just I want to sleep. We're getting gouged for electric prices here in New York. It's pretty dope. Love it.
Sick.
Love spending more money on necessities. So that's cool. Otherwise, I'm doing okay. Been playing some games, ready to talk about some news. We got lots of interesting tidbits coming our way just today, I'll say. But yeah, can't complain. We're about to kick into the release schedule, where it picks up. You know what I'm
crazy.
The onslaught of video games. That's what I'm looking for. Alpaca Tom says going to bed early. Sam is like, what? It's only 11. That's facts, though. He's
except it's midnight, my guy.
Yeah, and then he stays up after the show.
I do. I'm crazy.
Yeah. He's insane. Well, let's get through housekeeping so we can dive right into the news, everyone. This is Shared Save. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/Save the Game Media. If you can't catch us live, post every Sunday on your favorite audio platform of choice while you're over there. Please, it would mean the world to us if you could drop us a review. Apple, Spotify, don't really care. Whatever platform you're on, hit that follow button, like button, comment on Spotify. Tell us we're awful. It's fine. Engagement's engagement, all right?
Yeah.
That's what they don't tell you. If you want to support us even further, get early audio access to this show and exclusive bonus content like the monthly Q&A I put out last week and our upcoming exclusive bonus Shared Save episode, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current supporters. So thank you to Sam Hall, Alpaca Tom, Rick Davis, Silkenit, Dave Harp, David Hotright, Lillian, Marcus O'Neill, Brendan Myers, aka The Winter Gamer, Nikolai at Night, Fabulous Brianna, Brandon, Blackwyver, David Burdett, Dinglebomb, and Savoy Prime. Thank you all for your support. I see a few of you in the chat right now. That's housekeeping out of the way, Sam. So why don't we jump into what games have we been playing in the last week?
A fair number of things. It's been quite a good week in terms of playing games. Not really thinking about games, but playing them has been good. Actually, it was good thinking about games as well up until today. So I just rattle off the usual, still using Lego City Undercover as a little zone out game in the evenings, I guess mornings, considering when I go to bed. I'm still, unfortunately, working on Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Nearing the end of that, though, got into about halfway through the second DLC now, so I'm close to finishing. I played through and platinumed Venba because it came to the PlayStation Plus catalog.
Had you played it before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I mean, it's lovely. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people come to the consensus that even though it doesn't really sort of resonate with me in terms of a lived experience, you can tell that there is like a passionate, sort of personal, universal story going on there in terms of representation. So that's fantastic. Love the music in it as well.
Yeah, but no, I think Venba is a wonderful experience. Like you said, I can't personally relate to what it's like telling me on the screen, but I do feel like they did a fantastic job of being like, look at how culture is shared through like food and like this experience with family, and it's like it is a very touching story. It's very short, like it's well worth it. I would say, again, easy platinum if you're into that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed Venba.
Yep, agreed. And then the two main things I've played this week, both of which have opinions on. I mentioned this to you privately after the State of Play where Scars of Cosmora got announced,
Mm-hmm.
and we reflected on it last week. I said that I sort of wanted to go back to Bridge of Spirits because I didn't actually ever fully finish it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did get through like 70-80% of the game, but something at that time must have dragged me away, whether it was like an early IGN coverage or some other game released that captured my attention. And it's just never circled back around, didn't have a reason to really. Things have just gotten more hectic, but I took the time, went back, finished it. I didn't realize there was a difficulty-based trophy, so the only trophy I have left before the platinum now is to beat it on master difficulty.
Yep.
And I've started like an hour or two into that, and it's already kicking my ass, and I'm like fully upgraded. So
yeah,
it's gonna be rough. But Christ, man, what an amazing game!
Thank
Truly.
you. Yes.
Like, and I enjoyed it back in the day as well. I thought it was great, especially for an early life cycle PS5 game. I thought that's fantastic from a first time studio as well. But coming back to it now, it still fully holds up, and I think it's a wonderful little game. And I am even more excited for Scars of Cosmora as a result. So
yeah, I loved Kane and Bridge of Spirits when I played it. It was one of those games I was so excited for, based on the art style alone. I think is enough to sell most people. Like it isn't the most like, it's not the highest fidelity, like realistic, but it's so stylized, and the fidelity that they get on this art style is so amazing. I fell in love with it, and from what I remember, the cutscenes are kind of done in animation style, so it does drop to like 24 FPS, which is noticeable. I don't know if they're going to keep that for Scars of Cosmora, which then show that in the reveal trailer. That, doesn't mean they're not in there. We'll have to see, if that was some feedback they took. But yeah, I love that game, man. I thought the combat, while there's room for improvement, was solid. It really just reminds me of like a good old PS2 game.
Yep, 100%. So I will report back. I'm determined to get the platinum. I will get it, but it's like low level enemies that are just whooping me. So I have no idea I'm going to cope against some of the late game bosses, but I'll find a way. If there's a cheese method, I'm not afraid to use it.
Good old Wang Shen Wims here says, makes you wonder how Kevin got the platinum. It really does. Makes you, am I just that good of a gamer? Am I just that talented?
Yeah.
Did I
maybe it's time to step it up to Bloodborne next year.
If you let me finish, my next sentence was, did I just use an exploit where you loaded at the final save point, searched the difficulty, and it popped? Possibly. But there's no evidence of that. So
is that something you can still do?
No, they patched it out like a week after I did it.
I mean, I probably wouldn't want to do it that way anyway, but like if I really hit a speed bump, I might have maybe done it just to save myself time. But damn, I've got to do it legit. Darn, I've got to get good. But the other thing I'm playing, Kev.
Yes, I'm excited to hear about this one.
God of War: Sons of Sparta. Obviously, shadow dropped at the end of the last State of Play. Purchased it immediately because I'm a shill, I guess. And I am maybe somewhere in the realm of like 10 to 12 hours in.
Oh, wow. Longer than I expected.
Yeah. And I don't know how far in I am, but I still feel like I've got quite a long way to go. I'm taking it quite slow. I'm doing the thing that you shouldn't really do in Metroidvanias, where I'm trying to explore the nooks and crannies initially before getting all the upgrades that I know are going to let me actually access those areas.
Oh, I do that.
But I just like adding it to the map and like knowing that those things are there. So then I'll be like, mental note, come back. I think general consensus is pretty mixed, right?
That's a very good way,
nice
to phrase
way of putting it.
Yes, yeah.
I would agree that I think it's not anywhere near the top tier of Metroidvanias. It's not. And, to be fair, I wouldn't necessarily expect that from the studio that this game is coming from. But I would also agree with the sentiment that I've seen growing as people are spending more time with it, where the longer you play it, the better it gets, and it gets considerably better. I think the game starts out actually pretty weak, personally. Like the first 2, maybe 3 hours. I wasn't having a bad time, but I just sort of felt it was like incredibly generic and
Mm-hmm.
super basic combat, and like the traversal wasn't fantastic. But once you break through that, and I know that that is a big hurdle for people, which I completely get. Once you breach that and you start unlocking abilities and upgrading your skill trees, getting some unique items, I think that's when the game is starting to click with me more and more. I don't have a problem with the art style personally. I think, I love pixel art games, and I think that this actually is, contrary to what seems to be general consensus, I think this is actually quite a nice looking one. I think there's just maybe a bit of dissonance that it's a God of War game that looks like this. That maybe that's where some people are feeling a bit jilted by it. But overall, I am having a good time. Um, and I think that my final point on it, in terms of overall perspective on the game, is that it might not be like a home run, which is what you might necessarily want from a God of War title.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I still deeply appreciate, which I guess there's going to be some sort of like mental disconnect in my head, considering what else we're talking about today, that Sony is taking chances with their IP and not just doing the AAA super high fidelity plus one, whatever, third person, sad dad, blah, 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 blah. They're swinging for the fences a little bit, even if it is licensing out an IP to a different studio. And I would hope current events might suggest otherwise, not only in terms of this game's reception, but what's happened today might suggest otherwise. But I do hope that they continue and get even more experimental and try things out differently. But time will tell.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it gets better as you go on. Because I am one of the people, like when we first saw it, I'm not entirely in love with the
Mhm.
pixel art. Like I don't mind pixel art in general, but this pixel art I don't think particularly captures me. I
Sure.
also feel like something about when I see the game, I feel like the camera is too far away. I feel like if they brought the camera in a little, that would go a long way. But also, I think this is say. I think Kratos just looks stupid in it. Like I know he's just like, oh yeah, but he looks dumb. Like he doesn't look like a cool character. Like God of War, Kratos has always looked cool, and I get this is his origin story. But you could have told me that is Ed the
Sure.
Spartan, and I would believe, because it does not look like Kratos. It does not like give you main character energy. So like I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's nothing visually drawing into this game. I'm seeing the reviews as like a 67 on Open Critic. Like people are saying it's a fine Metroidvania. It's not. There's better options in the genre. Do you? Honest question. Putting
Mhm.
your love of God of War aside, if you take God of War out of the title of this game, would you have bought it?
No, no.
That's what so the IP is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, I think.
Yeah. And I don't inherently think that that's a bad thing necessarily, but I fully agree with the criticisms that, I mean, even prior to this thing being shown off, the scuttlebutt was like, oh, it's going to be like the Lost Crown, and it's going to be Greek Kratos, but it's going to be like Kratos,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have the Blades of Chaos, and it's going to be flashy, and it's going to
Yeah,
be
it would have been awesome.
2.5D. That seems like more of a home run, and more of an easy layup. So I'm not exactly sure what the decision was. I don't know whether it was maybe like Santa Monica, that, especially knowing that they were going to be remaking the trilogy, whether they didn't want anything that was a bit too close to that. I'm not sure. Or they wanted to use this offshoot experimental thing to lay a bit more of the groundwork narrative wise in terms of Kratos' backstory. So they wanted to do it here so that they didn't have to dedicate their own time to doing it. I'm not really sure what the decision making process was, but yeah, if you took the name and some of the names of the characters, I guess, out of the game, I think that it is, frankly, pretty. generic, pretty basic. I'm more open to it, not only because I'm a big God of War fan, but also again, I want to endorse and support the idea that Sony does get back to making the smaller experimental things, even if it's not first party teams doing it. Which to an extent, I was relieved that Sony are seemingly backing Kana, right, for the sequel, which is like that's great. I love to see that. But yeah, I don't think it's a swing and a miss, this game. I think it's a swing and you've maybe got to like first base, you know? Like it's not, you haven't really done a good hit. You've sort of dribbled it across the floor a little bit. Maybe an experiment that didn't quite pan out. That I think that's fair to say, but I'm still having a good time. And I would say, as much as the writing is a little bit inconsistent, I really like the voice acting and the music. Bear McCreary comes back and he does an excellent job. And I think that anybody who is a God of War fan probably should play this. I think it is worth playing if you are into the IP. So
that was going to be my final question here, because I've seen love him or hate him, and a lot of people hate him. David Jaffe, creator of the original God of War games, right? Coming out being like, you know, this is not like the direction it should have gone. Yeah, I'm sure he has lots of thoughts because, you know, he made the character. I'm sure he has a whole idea of what his backstory should be. And I don't know how much Sony Santa Monica, you know, had like information regarding that when making this game. But do you feel that this game adequately like enhances the backstory of Kratos, or if like is there any is the lore here actually worth knowing? I guess I should ask.
I simultaneously yes and no, because I think that in the same I think it's not as good, but it would be kind of the same argument I'd make about Ragnarok Valhalla, that DLC, where I personally think that some of the best character development and story that we've gotten from God of War period is in that DLC, but a lot of people haven't played it, and I don't know how important it's going to be going forwards. I would argue that that is probably more important going forwards than this. I can't say I've seen anything that is like no like surprise revelations or massive developments that recontextualize things, but I also haven't finished it. So I've heard that the ending does do something pretty impressive. So I'll reserve judgment there, but I do think that it is a canon thing that probably is just laying the groundwork and giving you a bit more flavor to the character if you want it. But it's not really going to be anything. It's like a Disney Plus show, you know, where like if you want to be well versed on everything and be fully in the know, then watch the Disney Plus shows for Marvel. But like you don't have to watch them. That's sort of where I'm at.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm still gonna play it at some point. I'm not spending $30 on it. I'm gonna wait for a sale or a PS Plus.
I would expect one or both of those things will happen within the next year. So
I wonder how it's selling.
I mean, it was at the top of the PlayStation charts in the week that it came out. But then I probably expect that it's going to nosedive after that, considering the consensus online. I mean, it's got you know, bias aside, it's got very good reviews star-wise on the PlayStation Store. So I don't know how much that factors in versus online discourse. I don't know where the general player base pulls their review information from. If you looked at it on the store page, I think it is like a 4 point something out of 5 stars. That could be conflated, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine, even if it hasn't sold like crazy well, that the IP probably is going to carry it into profitability. I can't imagine this game cost that much to make.
Yeah.
So it's probably still going to turn a profit and be deemed as a success, if not a critical one. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I do hope that Sony does more stuff, not necessarily exactly like this, but in this vein.
Sly Cooper.
That's all. Hey, I'd take a Sly Cooper Metroidvania, but like the proper cartoonized art style.
Well, let's jump into what I've been playing. Now that wrapped you up. So I'm gonna start with probably the shortest game I've ever played, and that is a game called Pizza Apocalypse.
I saw you on this earlier.
Yes, this game is maybe 30 minutes long, 40 minutes long if you're really going for it. So this is a 3D platformer that was made by a group of college students a few years
Mm,
ago, and they made it as a demo, and I'm really actually quite impressed. Like the movement feels good. They have some different tech. So essentially, you're a chef, and you have to get your pizza. Excuse me, gotta clear my throat. You gotta get your pizza to the delivery house through the level, and there's like robots trying to stop you, and you use the pizza as like a navigation tool, so you can throw it and then use it to pull yourself. You can use it as like a bounce
mm,
pad. You could use it as a weapon to attack the enemies. The reason I played this is I saw on Twitter that they're making a sequel, Pizza Apocalypse 2, and they're like, it's going to be a real game this time. Like we have like funding, or I don't know where they're getting the funding from, but they're making an actual 3D platformer, not just this like basic tech demo
sure.
almost. So this is like one level, a few areas in there, lots of collectibles, which is like pepperoni, cheese, stuff to make pizza. I thought it was cute, charming. So I'm like, I'm gonna wish list the second one and see what they can do with the full game. But like, I'm pretty happy with Pizza Apocalypse.
Nice.
The other game that I've been spending the majority of my time with is Mario Tennis Fever. Now, I touched on this briefly last week when I was like, hey, picked it up. You know, it just came out that morning, put a little bit into adventure mode. I have since beat adventure mode. Took me roughly 3-ish hours to beat. I think it starts off a little slow. You're like a baby Mario in an academy. It's like teaching you the basics. Like, here's how to do every shot. You know, play a tennis match here or there and do some mini games. Once you leave that, you get more of the classic, I would say, Mario Tennis adventure where it is, hey, we're in a jungle. There's a bunch of piranha plants over here. You know, hit the piranha plants with your racket, and we're gonna have like
Mm,
a little battle at the end against a boss. So you do that for a while against a variety of Mario enemies. I thought it was fun. I think people are a little too harsh on it. Um, I've been playing a lot of the online. I've unlocked all the characters. I absolutely am having a blast with the gameplay. Like this might be the best feeling Mario Tennis game, maybe the best Mario
oh,
sports game. Like I really don't agree with the reviews on this one. Like in the 70s, like this 8.5 probably for me. It's not
nice.
perfect. Like it didn't launch with all the online features. Like you can't team up to do doubles ranked yet. You have to do like just non-ranked doubles in an online lobby, but you could still have a lot of fun with that. Like I really am having a blast with Mario Tennis Fever.
Nice. It's is that does it have like any this is shows how out of touch I am. Does it have any like single player campaign or like
Yeah, the adventure mode is supposed to be the single player campaign. So you're not
sure.
gonna get it's a silly story. It's like, oh no, Daisy's dying in bed. She has a fever. And it's like, oh, Wario and Waluigi are like, oh, let's go steal this golden apple. They all get turned into babies, and you have to relearn to play tennis and save the day at the end.
Is that why it's called Fever?
I think so, but also
Mm,
there's like fever rackets. I don't know. It's a whole thing, but I'm not here for the lore of Mario Tennis. I'm just
sure.
here to drop shot fools and make them look stupid.
Right. Amen.
The other game I have been playing is Styx Blades of Greed. This game actually just came out today on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. And I was given a code by Nacon. So thank you, Nacon, for giving us a code. I streamed it for a few hours. I played it a few more hours offline. And I have a lot of thoughts on Styx.
Mm,
Now, preface this, I've talked about this. I played a little bit of the first Styx because it's free on
yep.
Epic. I didn't vibe with it. I thought it was like clunky, didn't really play all that well. I haven't touched the second one. I jumped in this one immediately. I will say feels way better to play.
Okay.
The movement feels a lot better. The stealth mechanics feel a lot better. Like the going in and out of the walls, the stealth positioning. They added like a roll so you can like position, creep around the corner, roll. This kind of Gears of War esque to get your positioning better. Um, his just his movement, the jumping, the sliding, everything is much improved here. That is kind of unfortunately where my positives end.
Right.
And it's a shame because I think there's a lot of potential in this series. I love Splinter Cell. I was here for a stealth game. My biggest critique is that enemies hear you do anything, and it makes the game incredibly frustrating to play. When I kill someone and enemies around the corner through wall, like if they hear you kill someone, I don't feel like my options are very vast to get through a lot of situations. A lot of the time, I'm like, am I meant to just ignore everyone and try to sneak around? Am I meant to kill them and get caught and then like try to hide until they stop their alarms and then I take them out one at a time? Like it becomes a frustrating cycle of getting caught over and over again. And when you do get caught, your options are, oh, we can pull out your knife, but you attack really slow, you're weak, they're going to kill you in like 1 or 2 hits, or run away. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting here, I'm like, my options aren't great. So I'm going to try to stealth, and then they hear you a mile away, which is incredibly frustrating. But then also, they know where you are at all times, even when they don't see you. And I posted a short of this on our channel. I was upstairs. I killed someone. People a ways away heard me. They start running at me. I jump off the balcony, run, and then slide under a cart, a wagon. And I'm like, okay, they were up the stairs. They have no idea I'm here. All 4 of the guys just surround my wagon. They look down and then grab, and I'm like, how could they have possibly known I was there? They didn't see me go under there. There's like, cause there's no way they're upstairs. So like the AI, I think, is way too overtuned. I think they really need to do some balancing. And I was like, is this because I'm playing on normal? I dropped it to easy. There's absolutely no difference between easy and normal. I don't know what the difficulty does even. Yeah, so I'm just a little baffled by how you're supposed to, effectively play this game without getting frustrated, and that's just the human enemies. I had progressed, like I was making my way through it. I was dying a lot. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna stick with it. Let's keep going. I'm having enough fun. In the later, I won't even say later levels because apparently this game's like 18 hours long or something, and I was like 5. Very long stealth game. You get to areas where there's non-human enemies. There's like bugs, and and Styx is like, oh, they're blind, so like don't make a lot of noise. And I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to like? I'll crouch walk, like I have to crouch walk past the entire field of bugs. Like that's just too slow. And then like eventually get a grappling hook, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, new traversal mechanic, and it does feel cool to use. But then they're like, oh, go find these seeds that are in the bug infested fields. And the bugs are just on top of the seeds. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get the seeds? Like I can crouch, but the bugs are literally on top of them. And then they just gang up and like murder you. And I'm like, okay, this is just frustrating. So I've called it quits on Styx Blades of Greed, unfortunately. I think this is probably the best Styx game that I've played. So if you are a fan of the series, you might, you could jump in. Maybe you're like, oh, Kevin's just bad. Totally a possibility. And you could pick this up. If you do, use our affiliate link down in the description below. Thank you very much. It is $40. So you could have some fun with this. Maybe you figure out something that I'm missing. But at the moment, I think I got to throw the towel in and just say, like, I think it's a little overtuned. I don't think that the stealth, like as good as some of the stealth is, which there are parts that I really enjoy. There's these like this might be the coolest mechanic. All right. And I know I'm rambling on, but
No, please.
one of the coolest mechanics I think is there's giant enemies and you can't just stab them to death by sneaking up and like hitting them in the back. You have to find like a drink or a food source that they'll go to on their route and poison it, and then they'll just die randomly. Like you'll throw up into it. I'm like, okay, that's a cool mechanic. Like that's fine. My issue is they move a little slow. So like I've had instances where I'm just against the wall for like 8 minutes waiting for them to make their route and get back to the point. And I'm like, we need to get to things faster. Like if I'm not playing the game, that is when the game, like, that is when it becomes frustrating, because then I'm just waiting and you're going to lose players. So, like, if you could just tweak a few things, you have a good stealth game here. You just fix the AI, give me some more options to get past some of the more annoying, like maybe less enemies. I don't know. Something here needs to be reworked. And then I think you have a good stealth game.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I almost identical to you, where I played a decent chunk actually of the first Styx game back in the day. I can't remember. I think it might have been given away as like a PS Plus game on PlayStation 4 even back in the day. I'm not sure. But I played it somewhere, and sort of same as you, where it's clearly very, very clunky. But I thought that the premise was cool, and I think that the world that they've built is interesting enough that it could have hooked me in.
Mm-hmm.
But that it felt like there were too many hurdles getting in the way of my enjoyment of the game, and it's a bummer that it seems like, to whatever extent, however they may have shifted, those hurdles are somewhat still in place. So it's one of those things that we've talked about a few times in a different context, where it's like it's an almost game.
Yes,
It's
it
like
is.
just it's so close to being actually pretty damn excellent,
Mm-hmm.
just not quite there.
Yeah, if they tweaked a few things, I would give it another shot. Like if I check the patch notes and they fix some of these issues that I'm sure other reviewers have brought up, because I know it's sitting at like a 75, I think, on Open Critic. So not bad. And like I said, it's not a bad game. I just think that there's things need to be improved to make it a better experience. And maybe longtime Styx fans, like, this is what they go to the series for. They
Sure.
like this more hardcore, if you want to call it that, stealth focus. But for most players, I think these elements would be a turnoff, unfortunately. So that is my Styx Blades of Greed coverage, everyone. Go check out my short and watch me die. But that is all I have been playing this week. I am going to go check out Echoes of the End. I think will be my next game. Yeah, I know that just dropped on PS Plus, so I'm excited to get to that one. But Sam, we've talked long enough without getting into the news, so why don't we jump right into why don't we go with the Patreon topic, the the fun one, and that is Silking It with the write-in, and he says, WTF Sony. For anyone that doesn't know, Bluepoint Studios is being shut down. Bluepoint Games, I believe, is the official name. Reported by Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg, PlayStation has made the decision to shut down Bluepoint Games, the studio known for Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls remakes. Sony only acquired the studio in 2021, and it had yet to release a title under the PlayStation Studios banner, but now they never will. PlayStation head Herman Hulst actually sent out the following email to staff today. He said, "Hello, everyone. I wanted to share an important update from the studio business. As I mentioned in the December town hall, 2025 had some strong highlights within PlayStation Studios. Ghost of Yotei launched to critical and commercial success. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach further showcased our commitment to narrative excellence. And Helldivers 2 and MLB The Show continued to drive ongoing player engagement revenue. At the same time, we're operating in an increasingly challenging industry environment. Rising development costs, slowed industry growth, changing player behavior, and a broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. To navigate this reality, we need to continue adapting and evolving. We've taken a close look to our business to ensure we're delivering today while still well positioned for the future. As a result, we will be closing Bluepoint Games in March. This decision was not made lightly. Bluepoint is an incredibly talented team, and their technical expertise has delivered exceptional experiences for the PlayStation community. I want to thank everyone at Bluepoint for the creativity, craftsmanship, and commitment to quality. Where possible, we will work to find opportunities for some impacted employees within our global network of studios. While I know this is hard news to hear, I'm confident in the direction we're headed. Creativity, innovation, and building unforgettable experiences for players remains at the heart of PlayStation Studios. We have a robust roadmap for fiscal year 26 with much to look forward to in the months ahead. Thank you for your hard work and continued support. Best, Herman Hulst." Sam, you have a lot of feelings regarding Bluepoint being shut down. Would you like to get some off your chest right now?
No, but I guess we have to, don't we? We have to accept reality. Just like Clive Rosfield, we have to accept the truth. And yeah, this would not have been on my bingo card in the slightest. I've been on the record several times over the past couple of years being like, well, I think there's a chance that Bluepoint could show up with something end of 2027, early 2028. Well, they went from Shadow of the Colossus in 2018 to Demon Souls in 2020. That's a 2-year turnaround for a remake, and that was amazing. So if they knuckled down and got on with it, but now they won't get the chance to do that ever, which is, I've been gutted about losing studios at PlayStation before, whether it is Japan Studio, whether it's Pixel Opus, Firewall, God bless, gone too soon. But this one sort of hits different in the sense it's very reminiscent, and I don't mean to do like whataboutism. It's very reminiscent to me of Tango for Xbox, where they deliver these critical successes, especially with Hi-Fi Rush. I mean, I know technically Tango prior to that was a little bit sketchy with Ghostwire and whatever, but for the sake of conversation, they just delivered a really hit game, and they were a smaller team, and thus they seem to be a logistically easier target for these companies to cut, so that they aren't carving into their bigger flagship IP. And as people in the chat are saying, it's sort of, I can't find a way, a path of logic to make it make sense in my head where this would be the team that would close. If we've said multiple times, all of us, not just me and you, but people in the Discord and just people online in general in the gaming community have said, like, Ben's days are numbered. What about Media Molecule? And Haven, with Fair Games. It's like there seem to be, not that I'm advocating for any of these teams to be shut down, but there seem to be more logical targets that have either have delivered something or not delivered anything at all, or aren't actually offering you as a first party studio anything actively unique, no expertise in a given field that you aren't already catering to elsewhere. Bluepoint had that. You bought them because they were good at remakes. And, I don't really want to rehash the whole God of War live service thing. I feel that's kind of played out. But obviously that was a dumb decision regardless. I'm not trying to brush over it. But I think the fact that past that, they couldn't still find value, even if anything that they were pitching over the past year since that cancellation wasn't quite getting off of the ground. You literally just announced God of War trilogy remake from Sony Santa Monica. And granted, Sony Santa Monica might want to do that mostly in-house, which is like fine if that's what they want to do, fine. But Bluepoint have had a working close relationship specifically with Santa Monica because they helped support and launch Ragnarok. And then they were making the live service, so they were making high-res Greek God of War assets. So to not think that you couldn't just attach them, even just absorb them if you wanted to dissolve the Bluepoint name, which I wouldn't be for necessarily, but if you wanted to just do that and say that Bluepoint is now becoming Sony Santa Monica North or whatever, as a support team for them to help realize their vision and let them produce the trilogy remake and the Egypt God of War and Corey's game and whatever. I don't get it. And the scary thing, Kev, is in the same vein as Tango, the only logic that makes sense to me, which is what Shinobi, I shared in the Discord, said, is, well, they haven't shipped anything in 5+ years. And, they were sort of looking at least another couple of years, if not more, before they could ship anything else again if it got greenlit. So the revenue isn't there, and thus they became a target. And if that is the sole logic that you're applying to the situation, because again, I can't find any other logic that makes sense, that inherently means that like 4 or 5 other PlayStation teams should logically fall under that scrutiny as well. That's, Media Molecule, that's Bend, that's Haven, that's Firesprite even. I don't want to bring this into existence, but Joe from Trophy Room put out on socials earlier, it's like, I'm worried about Housemark. And I'm like, dude, I'm pissed about this because Bluepoint are like so clearly talented and could do so much for PlayStation considering their backlog of IP. But if something happens to like Housemark, I am like scorched earth. So, yeah.
So I understand people's, I don't understand the rationale of they haven't shipped anything because they were bought after Demon Souls and Shadow of the Colossus, like after successful remakes. They were then, I know you said you want to rehash it, but they were said, hey, you're going to make a live service game now. And then it was part of the massive cancellations. So when I look at this situation, how can I possibly put the blame on Bluepoint for not shipping anything when they haven't been given the ability to ship anything? Like, we could have had another remake. We could have had an original game, a remake. I doubt they would have taken 5 years or 4 years that they spent working on the God of War live service game, right? Like, I obviously don't know the ins and outs. Maybe they pushed for that project. Maybe that was what they wanted to work on. I find it hard to believe that that's what they would pivot to, but crazier things have happened, I guess. I then shift my focus to the explanations of, well, their pitches have got off the ground, and that rings very much of Tango game where like Hi-Fi Rush came out, was shut down a little after that, right? Like, and the explanation we were given literally by Matt Booty was, oh, they didn't have any, like, they're just a victim of, they don't have a game in development right now. Like, our other studios have a game in development. So you put out a game that's bad, you get shut down. You put out a game that's good, you get shut down. Because at the end of the day, it all matters. Like, if you're not actively working on something at the time we decide that we need to cut costs, it's just a very strange way to run business. Maybe it makes sense to other people. I don't personally get it. So now I am looking at studios, unfortunately, like Housemark. When Sorrow ships, right? If it doesn't meet sales figures, which I don't know what they're expecting, like Returnal did like 1.5 million or something, right? Like, if it doesn't sell more than that, are they then on the chopping block because they don't have a game in current development, even though they just released one? Like, does releasing assumably two critically acclaimed games not give you a little bit of leeway in this industry? Like, when I look at studios, Ben hasn't released anything since Days Gone, which was 18, 20, something like that. 19. Okay, 2019. So I don't know what they were doing. They also had a live service game that got on the chopping block. You go to Media Molecule, which hasn't shipped a game. I'm not counting Dreams, a game in over a decade. Are you telling me with this explanation, Media Molecule's game is coming soon then? They're in active development. They have to, like, if it's a matter of when the game is coming that decides these things, Media Molecule's game must be pretty close then. So now I am expecting to see that game next year, a year after at the latest, right? Like, you're setting these expectations when you start closing studios for this reason. I just find, I don't know, man. I think Kyle in the chat says just another example of studio full of talented employees paying the price of suffering consequences for the actions of those at the top, Jim Ryan and Herman Hulse, which I fail to see how that's not a fair assessment of what's going on. Jim Ryan, I think, for all the good he did, getting the PS5 out, managing COVID, launching very well with a handful of games, this whole live service initiative that Herman Hulse have fully backed, and now Herman has taken over. I have never been in support of Herman Hulse being the head of PlayStation. I think he gained a lot of maybe undeserved praise for what he did at Gorilla. Not to say Gorilla is a bad like Gorilla's a great studio. I think Horizon is a massive seller for them, but he clearly
They gave him a lot of cachet.
Yes, he clearly is out of his depth leading these teams. And if we don't see that by now, I don't know what people are waiting for, because you need to pull the wool out over your eyes. Everything Horizon Hunter Gatherers is being critically tarnished online. Like, no one is happy with that. Marathon had to go through hell and back to even have a semblance of chance. Fair Games has been written off before we even actually seen any gameplay. Like, nothing is going well. Everyone's saying, where are the games? Where are the single player narrative games that we want? And Herman Hulst is like, well, you know what? What if we shut down Bluepoint? And it's like, I feel like he needs to take a step back. I feel like he got punished. He got demoted when he was co-CEO. And at this point, I don't know who's worse, him or Matt Booty at managing first party studios.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it's even like a question now is scary, because Matt Booty is historically provenly not great at his job either. So I mean, yeah, I don't know who replaces Herman Hulst, but that's the same argument that I would present for Matt Booty. It's like, I don't know who in the organization takes over, but that isn't a defense that should be employed to keep that person in their position. You know, I think back to like when Japan Studio got shut down, and there was, you know, reasons provided, which is fine, like that they didn't want to scale to AAA, which, you know, in hindsight is probably a good call. And I think that Sony probably regret, if they don't already, they will regret that, because having the AA experimental games from Japan Studio would probably be a bit of a boon right now, considering the way that the industry is going. And on top of that, you know, now that Nishino's taken over, they are trying to renew their focus in Japan, and they culled a very full of heritage and talent Japanese team. Now, granted, Team Asobi came out of the dissolution of Japan Studio, and Team Asobi is fantastic, but I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I'm pretty sure you could have kept Japan Studio at least in some fashion and still spun Asobi out of it, because Asobi was an existing studio underneath that division. And it goes even further than the teams that we talked about, like Bend and Media Molecule and Haven and Housemarque and Firesprite. It's even more than that now, because we have teams that we know are working on at least multiplayer adjacent games that haven't shown anything, like Team LFG, Blundell's Dark Outlaw, you know, the ex-COD dev guy. Like, they're working on Team LFG is a multiplayer live service thing, the Gummy Bears, whatever it is. And then you have Blundell, which we assume is the same game that he was making at Deviation, and that was at least had a multiplayer component to it. And, you know, like Hunter's Gathering, I don't expect, if Hunter's Gathering underperforms or flops or whatever, I don't expect Guerrilla to close, right?
No, yeah,
but
too big.
Even then, it's like, well,
layoffs.
It's and it's the same argument that you're applying to Bluepoint of, okay, well, that means that Guerrilla have wasted 5+ years of their time on a thing that didn't give you anything, didn't give you any success, and you are now X amount of years behind on the pipeline of things that actually would make you money. And again, like, for all its flaws, that's where something like Sons of Sparta, I'm like, you should be doing that more. And to think that you couldn't even get Bluepoint to just do something like that, just to fill the void. Because again, they went from Shadow of the Colossus, shipping that in 2018, to then shipping Demon Souls at the end of 2020. That is less than 2 years.
Which some people bought a PS5 for that game.
Precisely. You know, like Mars Morales is a great game, but really the PS5 game at launch was Demon Souls. So like, I cannot believe that they were like, oh yeah, this team, they're really great at remakes and remasters. That's almost exclusively what they've done for us over the past decade. We'll buy them. And the first thing we're going to do is put them not only on a live service God of War game, but we're going to put them on support just to get one of our other games out. And the one potential, again, we don't know the information. The one potential ding against Bluepoint is I don't know how extensively they fought, because what they are on the record saying that they didn't want to just be a remake studio. So if they were like vehemently fighting against that notion, and that's what Sony kind of wanted them to do. Now, obviously, they pitched the live service to Sony and Sony greenlit it, but that could have been mandated, right? Because there was the live service push. So if they wanted to secure funding for their studio, then they would be incentivized to pitch a live service. But if outside of that, Bluepoint were like, no, we want to do a new thing, and Sony were like, well, actually, we prefer if you do this, but there was still pushback. Maybe that created friction, and then things weren't being greenlit, the pitches over the past year. Maybe, right? But that is a bit of a stretch. It's possible, but that is the only realm where I could maybe levy a little bit of criticism, because they're on the record saying it against Bluepoint. But even then, why not? Like, Sons of Sparta has been in development for multiple years, and Bluepoint were working with Santa Monica, so it's like everyone knows what everyone's working on. So you don't think that Bluepoint couldn't have gone, right, well, we aren't going to do a massive, like, super high fidelity Demon Souls thing, but what if we did a spin-off for not necessarily whether it was God of War or not? You could have just done it for any Sony IP. I'm spiraling.
It frustrates me, especially after reading that email he sent to employees where he's talking about how how hard sustainability is in the game industry right now. Like, budgets are out of control. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, wouldn't remakes and remasters be a cheaper way to get out games for like less budget, quicker turnaround, probably an upside in profit? People do show up for remasters and remakes. Like, I know people hate them, but they do sell because people love nostalgia and
you can test reviving IP at the same time.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here reading these things he's saying, and I'm like, I see you writing these things to your employees and then acting completely differently when you're spending $400 million to try to make a Overwatch competitor in Concord. And now I know Kyle brought it up, but the live service initiative doesn't feel organic, he said, right? Like in the chat here, they feel like a PA announcement went out to PlayStation Studios. So it's like, hey guys, pitch us your live service games. And everyone's like, oh, well, what if we do a Monster Hunter style game? Yeah, that could work. And like, oh, what if we do a Overwatch style? Yeah, that could work. And it's like extraction shooter. Great. And now we have two of those coming, apparently, because that's what Fair Games is. Like, it does feel almost like they were instructed and then had to come up with stuff, and we're now suffering the consequences of that instead of, this is what I'm passionate about, like I for all the criticisms it's gotten, I do feel like Mega Cat Studios probably was very passionate about making Sons of Sparta.
Absolutely.
So I would rather them spend their time making smaller games, smaller budget titles. And I know they're not going to get the giant returns, but that's what you have studios like Naughty Dog for, Insomnia. Like, you have your big budget, AAA, high fidelity games that are going to sell 10 plus million copies in a month or whatever. Like, you have those titles. You just need to keep your budgets in check and let the other studios handle the smaller, tighter games, get those out more frequently, boost those profits. Because I've seen people online somehow using this to console war and say, see, this proves the exclusivity model doesn't work and Sony needs to change course. I'm like, this doesn't prove anything except Sony have made a lot of bad decisions by not doubling down on what worked for them in the PS4 generation. They've trend chased. They've gone to try to the live service initiatives, right? Like, I don't know. I think people are drawing completely incorrect conclusions for console war bait, but like, it's very frustrating because like, people are losing their jobs. We're losing a talented studio. And I know he said, oh, we'll try to put some of these employees across our studios, right? Like, that's the hope. As far as I know, and I think there was a report about this, no one has actually been like placed in another studio so far. But could you not see them going to Santa Monica and working on the God of War remakes? Could you not see them helping out on, I don't know, Horizon Hunter? Like, I don't know
Sure.
what it looks like. I don't know where everyone's located, but hopefully they land on their feet. It's just a very frustrating experience, I think, when you have such a good team.
Yeah, and like talking about making smaller games or controlling budgets, it's like, well, you have examples of that in PlayStation Studios already. Astrobot as it didn't light the world on fire in terms of sales, right?
Hmm.
We're probably in like the maybe 2 million at this point, I would
I
maybe.
think it was 2.3
Sure,
last I
then so
googled, something
maybe
like that.
we're
Yeah.
2.5, something like that, around that mark, which compared to all the other big stuff, not a drop in the bucket, right? But it made profit. It's a successful game. It made its budget back 10 times, and it didn't, in that process, sacrifice the critical acclaim that Sony is clearly very interested in with
Hmm.
all of their big budget games. It won Game of the Year. It got tons of other technical awards. So that's proof. And then even more so, you haven't even, like Herman Hulse mentioned it in the email. Ghost of Yotei, budget of around 60 million. How does Sucker Punch, which aren't necessarily like top tier like Santa Monica,
I would
Naughty
put them
Dog,
below. Like,
but
yeah,
like
it's like,
just below,
well,
right?
it's like Naughty Dog, Insomniac, Santa Monica is probably like
Yeah.
the top three, I imagine.
But like again, Sucker Punch, they've done it. They did it with Ghost of Tsushima, which had the same budget as Yotei. Yotei has a brand new map, brand new character, brand new story, fully motion captured, better visuals, new
It's
gameplay
woke
mechanics.
now.
It's woke now. Um, she's a raging lesbian, Kev, except she's not. Sorry, Grums. But like they did it, and that game has, as unfortunately, sorry again, Grums, been a massive financial success for them already,
Hmm.
and it did that within like the first month of it being out.
Hmm.
So if they can do it, I don't understand why a Spider-Man 2 has to cost 300 million. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Spider-Man 2, but that isn't upending itself in the same way that Yotei is compared to Tsushima, because it's the same map, much of the
Hmm.
same mechanics, same character models, same like. So I'm not saying that it's a massive undertaking. There's licensing fees involved with the Marvel, whatever. I don't understand, because Bluepoint comparably in terms of like headcount is pretty close to Asobi, because Asobi was
I think it's like, yeah, it's
65.
got 70 people, I think, from Bluepoint.
Yeah, and Bluepoint is 70. And I imagine that after Astrobot, Asobi has probably scaled up just a little bit, maybe like a dozen or two new employees, if that. They said they wanted to stay small, but still, I imagine they want
So Bluepoint is the size of Falcom, the Japanese studio I like,
to.
who is considered very niche. Double A is a stretch for a lot of their game, like JRPG studio. Like they're making very, I don't want to say budget, but they reuse assets every single game to get a game out every year, every other year. Like they're clearly managing their finances well, and they're independent.
Yep.
So you're telling me Bluepoint couldn't do something like that?
And also, like, when you're cutting a team that small, comparable to the massive teams you have elsewhere in far more expensive areas in America, I don't know how much money you're actually saving. And you're inherently losing talent, and you're losing your ability to, in a expedient way, make the remasters that seem to be the path that you're probably going to be going more down in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems counterintuitive on every level. And like you look at Bluepoint's track record: Gravity Rush Remastered, 80 on Metacritic; Nathan Drake Collection, 86; Metal Gear Collection, 89; Shadow of the Colossus Remake, 91; Flower, 91; God of War Collection, 91; Eco and Shadow of the Colossus Collection on the PS3 and 4, 92; Demon Souls on PS5, 92. And all of those games didn't light the world on fire in terms of sales, but they made money. So you've got the critical acclaim and you've got the commercial. It's just not the massive commercial. And yeah, okay, because of your mismanagement, they didn't put out a game for the past few years. And now they're not going to give you anything. Yeah.
This all could have been avoided if you hadn't remake Bloodborne.
I mean, I should really order myself a clown wig for ever believing that Sony would be, intelligent enough to let them do it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say besides I think Sony is making a horrible, huge mistake doing this. But that seems to be their MO for a lot of decisions this generation, which people accuse me of being I was an Xbox fanboy, now I'm an Xbox hater. But I give to everyone equally, all right? Sony,
Mhm.
you're making stupid decisions. You're making stupid. This live service initiative, stupid. Closing Bluepoint, stupid. All right, bring back
Right,
Concord.
right after the state of play that they got massive praise for.
That's an Xbox move, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Having an amazing showcase and then closing a studio.
And right before the launch of Marathon and Saros, and again, talking about like being concerned for Housemark, it's like you want that to be in the conversation just before your game comes out. It's like, and I know that like financial quarters and yada yada, like, there's times and places for these things. And also, like Greg Miller on Kind of Funny today was like, I don't expect to see fair games. Like we're being told currently by people in the know that it's supposedly still in active development. I don't expect to see that game. So,
No,
like, if you're
I
gonna
don't.
do it, you should just put, and again, I'm not advocating for this, but if it's gonna be inevitable where, like, you're basically saying, like, "We're just gonna kinda drag this out," like, just don't drag it out. If you're gonna call these teams for their own sake and ours, like, I prefer you to just do it.
Well, what was the I shared information. It's like since 2021, they've bought like Nixus, Firewalk, they've bought Blue Point, they've bought Haven, they've bought Bungie, and it's like their acquisitions are not panning out. Bungie might be recovering with Marathon. We'll wait to see, but overall has been a failure. Haven bought for Jade Raymond, who for the life of me can't figure out how she keeps getting work. But like as you were saying, I don't expect fair games to come out. From what we've heard behind the scenes, they've had play tests. It's not been well received. I assume that's in a massive reworking stage right now. So like you put that out, it either flops and you have a Concord situation, or you somehow spend hundreds of millions. I don't know how much money you're spending on this to try to get it to a place where you put it out and have a successful product. It's probably not worth it though, right? Like Jade Raymond left. I don't even know, 2 years ago at this point. It feels like she's been gone a long time from that studio, and we've heard nothing. So I just find it hard to believe. We know what happened with Concord and Firewalk. Uh, Nixus has probably been their like probably their best acquisition, but they're just a port house. Like they just port games to PC. So like I don't know. That Sony needs to get it together, unfortunately.
Yeah, and most of those acquisitions outside of, like, Housemarque,
Housemark was the other
um,
one.
were again, to the point in the chat we brought up earlier, like, that all of those acquisitions are inorganic, and it proves that the acquisitions that are organic from Sony seem to be primarily the ones that work out quite well for them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the live service push, and to be frank, some of the blame lies on Xbox because of their acquisitions. I think they spooked Sony, but Sony should have known better. I get why they were reactive in that way of scooping up a lot of multiplayer-centric teams. But yeah,
Ultimately, it didn't
it's
matter though. They could
no,
have saved
exactly,
that money and nothing
exactly.
would have changed for like they're still getting called. Like I understand at the time it was a very different situation. Like people were worried Xbox is going to make Call of Duty exclusive. They're going to take all our Activision Blizzard. Like that's going to be a massive loss of revenue for us. We got to pick things up. We got to generate our own live service initiative here to recoup the cost. But like that hasn't played out that way. Like Xbox is now a third party publisher for the most part with the hardware that no one buys, and it's a completely different landscape now than 2021. So I understand people can't see the future, but if you could go back, I imagine they reassess some of these acquisitions and maybe don't make them. But like, I wouldn't think Bluepoint would be one they regret. Like, if you had given me that list, Bluepoint's going to be a success. And then Nixus, obviously, and then Housemark, I would say probably their top three. So it's just strange.
Yeah, and I am very downbeat. Naturally, we all are today, but I remain hopeful because they've had so many opportunities to cull some of these other teams that seem to be in our concerned
Floundering.
zone. So, like, I hope that because they haven't chosen to do that yet, when they've had ample opportunities, including today, to just announce that and pull the band-aid off, I hope that those teams are safe and that we do eventually see things from them. But that future is more uncertain today than it's ever been, which is scary.
Yes, for sure. Shout out to the 18 people watching us live.
Oh
If you're
yeah.
new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitch if you're over there, hit the like button. Appreciate everyone coming in, checking us out. Sam, I think that's all I have to say on the Bluepoint drama issue.
Yeah.
But why don't we shift and go staying in the PlayStation ecosystem,
Mm.
your topic this week, and kind of backed up by some reporting. I don't know about reporting, but some things that Christopher Judge said this morning. Is Santa Monica Studio about to reveal their new game?
Yeah. So the scoopers, the insiders of the industry, for what feels like a couple of years now, have said that Corey Barlog's next game is the next big thing for Santa Monica, which makes sense. That checks out. And we've been pondering for a while. Is it going to show up here? Is it going to show up there? Is it going to be Game Awards? Is it going to be this state of play, that state of play? And they've been saying, as of late, the Hates, the Shinobis of the world, they've been saying that in a cryptic way that we are seemingly likely to see whatever Corey Barlog's game is at some point this summer. Some people have specified late summer. Some people have just said summer generally. I would have thought if it was summer, you'd be probably referring to either the June state of play or specifically Summer Game Fest. I don't know where else you would show it unless you're talking about a September state of play, but that seems maybe a bit far out. So who knows? But they've said that Shinobi especially has said that because he knows apparently what quarter they're targeting to release the game. Now he doesn't expand on that, but if we are to assume that it shows up in the June state of play or the Summer Game Fest or even the September state of play, that would indicate, based on PlayStation's track record over the past few years of announcing their games, that we are seeing this game release at latest like July or August of next year. And Christopher Judge himself, the Kratos voice actor and motion capture actor for 2018 Ragnarok, he was caught at a convention. I'm not sure which convention it was, but he was caught seemingly unaware by someone wearing a hot mic and then someone else from a distance secretly videoing. And the woman who was speaking to him said about the recently announced Sons of Sparta, and said whether Christopher Judge was involved in any way, and he said no. It's T.C. Carson, the original Greek voice actor, and he also said that T.C. Carson would be doing the trilogy remake, which you would expect, right? But I think just out of courtesy, he answered the person asking the question. And then Christopher Judge seemingly backed up what the insiders have said, whether it was a Freudian slip or not. He said that you'll see what we're doing late summer. Now, I do believe at time of recording that Christopher Judge, I'm going to check, he actually, I think, did tweet something out.
He did make a statement.
This.
Yes, he did.
So I'll see if I can pull that up. But he kind of pushed back a little bit. He said, "Let me be crystal clear. I have zero involvement with the original games and what they involve, full stop. As much as I would love that everything I do in the future would involve Sony Santa Monica and God of War, I have other projects that I'm super excited about, more info this summer. So, Kev, that would indicate that he was actually just speaking about something else that he's doing. But that would be bizarre to me because he was responding to a question in the context of God of War. And it seems weird to say, well, I'm not involved in the Greek God of War remake, but you'll see what we're doing, the next thing we're doing late summer, especially after what the insiders have said. So do you think we're seeing Sony Santa Monica's game?
It's interesting. I'm going to start with this. I do think we see Santa Monica's game this summer. I think that has been well reported at this point. Corey's game has been in development for years. Long rumored, oh, is it a space game? No, it's not a space game. It's an IP that isn't new, but it's going to show up. Like, we've had so much mixed reporting about what this is. I woke up and saw these quotes in this video and everything, and I saw some, I don't want to say misreporting, but maybe a misinterpretation of what Christopher Judge is saying, because I saw some people taking this as, oh, a new God of War game is getting, and like the next one in the Ragnarok trilogy, the Egypt, whatever you want to call it, like that's Corey's next game. And he really only said, you'll see what we're doing. Now, does that mean what he is doing with other studios, or is he involved in Corey's next game, but it's not God of War? Because I gotta be honest, I don't want Corey's game to be God of War. Not to say I won't play it,
Sure,
but
yeah.
I really would love a new IP from Corey Barlow, who I think is an amazing director. 2018 is like, I don't know where I put it, but it's up there. Probably in the top 25 game. Like, I love God of War 2018. So like, it ranks so highly. I think he's an amazing director. I think Christopher Judge is obviously an amazing voice actor. So like, getting him on board, I think not only you, like, maybe that's some comparison, like, oh, it's a God of War guy, like, but he's clearly in with the studio. He's worked with like, it wouldn't be the strangest. Like, Naughty Dog does that all the time, right? Like, they have what's her name, the Intergalactic, the lead actress has been in The Last of Us, right?
Yes.
Part 2. She was in the TV show, I think, too. So like,
yeah,
it's not uncommon, not a weird thing at all. So I personally am of the opinion, if I have to pick, Christopher Judge is in Corey's new game. It's not God of War. I don't know if that's hopium, but that's where I'm planting my flag.
That is also exactly where I am. And the exact same things you've said. I would be inclined, as of what we know right now, to believe that Chris is in Corey's game, again, because of the association with the studio and getting along well. PlayStation do that quite often. We know, for example, that Troy Baker is going to be in Intergalactic as well. And obviously he was in Last of Us as Joel. So reusing actors is a pretty common thing for Sony Studios. Yuri Lowenthal was all over the place as well. Nolan North, all these voice actors. Laura Bailey, don't need to go through the. So I would like to think that he is in a new role in this new game, whatever it is. And I also, again, I would play the living crap out of it if it was God of War. But I do hope that Santa Monica isn't just the God of War studio. There's nothing wrong with God of War. I'll take as much God of War as they're willing to give me. But I inherently would just be more interested if they were doing something else alongside God of War. I'm scared.
I was like, you actually have a theory about what the new game is. You know, you did message me. I don't know if you want to put that public. We can keep that privately.
No. You know what? Like, I'm going to timestamp it. Like, here, I'm going to say it now.
Okay.
Because, like, if I say it now and it happens, I'm Lisan Al Gaib, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I've inhaled the spices and I'm seeing the stars. But I said to you, and to be fair, I'm not the only one that has voiced this theory. But I hadn't heard. It was very weird. I messaged you this, and I think it was either the day after or a couple of days after I messaged you about it, that Maddie Plays actually had a live stream, and he was talking about Corey's game being rumored to be revealed. And he said the exact same thing as me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is strange. So I don't know what's going on there, but like minds, I suppose. But I said to you, Kev, that I think a lot of dots are connecting, that I think Corey's game could be a reboot, a 3D action adventure reboot of Castlevania. There are a number of reasons that I have this theory. Number one, of course, being, as we've said, that Corey's game is apparently not a new IP, but it will feel like one. So that would fit. It's Castlevania. That's not new, but it's going to feel like one. It's a reboot. It's a new interpretation. I've said this multiple times in the Discord and on recorded content, but Eric Williams, the director of God of War Ragnarok, was on the spoiler cast, I believe, for Ragnarok at Kind of Funny. And they were talking about, what the studio is going to do next and where they see their future lying. And Eric Williams did say, like, explicitly, that he would love to get the Castlevania license. So a director at the studio who was clearly working closely with Corey, collaborating on Ragnarok, has voiced the idea of getting Castlevania.
Wouldn't he have known better to say it?
Yes, I don't disagree. But maybe, depending, because Ragnarok had just shipped, maybe things hadn't quite co-aligned. The ink wasn't quite on the paper, and you know how they do things. Sometimes they signal flare and they put things out there into the ether, and they get a bit of public perception, and then that can help solidify the deal. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. There are some holes in my theory, don't get me wrong. But then, Kev, as we all know, we just had this hour-long plus state of play that happened. Not only did Santa Monica feature very heavily, but we also got clearly a deep partnership of sorts with Konami, where they showed off a number of titles, including a new Castlevania game. And they have timed exclusivity on Silent Hill Townfall with Konami. They did with Silent Hill 2. And then, as part of the 40th anniversary celebrations of Castlevania, which is happening this year, Konami have also announced that Belmont's Curse, the new Castlevania game announced, is the first of multiple titles as Castlevania is intended to be revived as an IP. And you will learn more about that throughout the year. That would also line up with learning about Corey's game this summer. And also, this isn't really like something that you should factor into the conversation, but it does in some way make sense. If you're going to try and revive an IP, there aren't many directors out there right now that would be more fitting than Cory Barlog, who helmed arguably the single best IP revival with God of War 2018. So I'm putting it out there. I'm saying it's Castlevania. I would be very interested in that. I'm not a massive Castlevania fan, but I think that would be really dope.
It's just God of War, third person over the shoulder, but you have like a whip instead. Like
Castlevania Lords of Shadow, right? Like, I think like that was a hack and slash God of War. Like, I know I saw that term floating around on social media over the past few weeks.
Everything has to be like everyone.
I know. People are like, oh, Dante's Inferno was a God of War clone. It's a hack and slash game.
I would say God of War is a Dante Inferno. Like,
yeah, it's like, and to be fair, like, obviously Dante's Inferno drew a lot of inspiration from God of War, but like the genre isn't God of War's. It's like, come on. So I think that is I think there is enough breadcrumbs there where it could make some sense. That being said, I am somewhat concerned, Kev, that it could just be a
God of War
game. And not necessarily like the mainline Egypt game, but because it's like not a new IP but feels like one, I would again play the hell out of it. But there is especially with like what's happened with Bluepoint and like going back to the remake trilogy and like doubling down on the IP, do they want to spin off and do this other random thing that is less in their control or not in their control at all? Would they not just want to double down on God of War and just make a Atreus spin-off or something?
Please, I don't want maybe somewhere down the line, but I really like, I'm fine with letting Atreus sit, and then like you come back to him in a few years time, he's older, he's more of an actual character I want to play as opposed to a little boy with a bow and arrow, and like more God of War-esque almost, but like plays different. Like I really hope it's not that. Like it would make sense, I guess, for Kratos to be in that somewhat somehow, but like I'm sitting here again, don't want a new God of War yet. Next generation, sure, but I just want something new from Santa Monica.
Atreus, he ventures off on his own at the end of Ragnarok, off to have his own adventure.
Great, cool. Him and
We need
Agrabota
we need to know what that adventure was, Kev. We need to play it.
Introducing God of War farming life. It's just Atreus like managing it's like Animal Crossing like.
Yeah, they'd call it like God of Mischief or something. You know, that's what they'd call it as a spin-off.
Yeah, they would. That's such a lame name.
I know, man. I know, but that's who he is. So it's like he's not the God of War, but he is the God of Mischief.
That's what I'm saying. Like, do that in like 6 years when he's an adult and like badass.
Sure.
You know? Like magic. Like that could be a cool game.
It's been 4 years since Ragnarok.
No, that's fine though. Like, let us sit. Let us sit. We're doing too much. We got the remakes. We're doing too much.
I'm with you. I don't want God of War. I'll play it, but I don't want it.
Listen, Castlevania, make it happen.
Yeah.
We're going to see more Castlevania this year. Konami's basically said as much. Whether it's this game, I don't know. There's a shot. It's not 0%. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Because I don't know what else it could be, because
it could be anything really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. But no, Summer Game Fest, I'm leaning more towards the state of play, like a big June state of play than Summer Game Fest, but they always give Jeff something. So we'll see. But why don't we move on to our final topic? This is my topic. We got new Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 details. This comes from a Todd Howard interview over at Kind of Funny. Let me just pull up all my documents here. So we're going to start with Starfield, and this was Greg Miller interviewing Todd Howard, and Todd says, Greg opens up the questions with a pretty direct one. It's about Starfield. He referenced the creator event that was held last year with plenty of rumors flying around a supposed Starfield 2.0. Todd was quick to dispel rumors that it would not be a 2.0 type reveal, but that if you, quote, loved Starfield, this would be something you enjoy. Here's what he had to say exactly. Quote, obviously, we've been working a lot on Starfield content. We haven't talked about it yet. The end of last year was prickly for us. We have periods where we focus on IPs and franchises, and Fallout obviously dominated the fall and earlier this year, but you've seen it. And I can tell everybody we're going to be talking about it really soon. We're moving into a phase where we're going to be talking about Starfield and really show that in the right way. It is not Starfield 2.0. I've seen some of that, and for expectation setting, I think it's the kind of thing where if you like Starfield, we think you're going to love this. It's updates and things that change the game, not in an isolated way, but meta, using outer space and things in ways that we haven't. But if Starfield is something that didn't connect with you right away, or you bounced off of it, or found it boring, I don't think it's going to change that fundamentally. But if you're someone who loves Starfield, we think you'll be really happy. Okay, so let's pause there. Let's start on Starfield. Rumors that this is imminently coming to PlayStation 5. I've seen my birthday thrown around April 7th as a release date for the PS5 version, unconfirmed as of yet. Todd saying we'll see it soon. Are you a little disappointed in what he's saying, though?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's been, I don't want to say a vocal critic of Starfield, it just sort of underwhelmed for me on the whole. But I don't think it's a bad game by any stretch. I think it's just my least favorite Bethesda game in quite a while. I think, you know, I'll readily admit that I was on the sort of hopium train that there was going to be a 2.0-esque update. But, you know, I guess after learning this, reflecting, and I have heard people mention this of like, you know, the Cyberpunk 2.0 Phantom Liberty moment, that they are in a different place because Cyberpunk came from a real back foot
Mhm.
position, really busted, had a lot of things that really seriously needed like active fixing. And Starfield, whilst it is still sort of somewhat buggy as a Bethesda game would be, um, it was relatively stable and it had a vision and committed to the vision. It's just a vision that didn't gel with everyone. Um, so I think that labeling it as it needed a 2.0 update is, in retrospect, a bit unfair. But still, I am disappointed because as someone who wanted to love Starfield, you know, I bought into the early access. It's one of the few games that I actually purchased on my Xbox this generation. Um, I was ready. I was there. I was super excited, and I would have loved a reason for me to um, jump back in and give it another shot, whether that be on PlayStation or not. And it doesn't seem like I'm going to have that reason. I'm still interested to see what these updates are. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but I think that it has taken some of the wind out of my sails because I already know that from the way that Todd Howard is phrasing it. And if he's the one phrasing it this way, then you know he's not trying to spin it because he's spinning it negatively, if anything. Um, I know that it's something that is still not going to be for me.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there because I'm sitting here, I'm hearing content creators talk about, oh yeah, I've seen Starfield 2.0, right? Like they haven't said anything, but like, and they've just said they've seen it, but they've referred to it as Starfield 2.0. We've had insider gaming and leakers come out being like Starfield 2.0 is gonna change it. You know, we're gonna get rid of loading screens. You're gonna have like space travel. And now I'm sitting here, I listen to what Todd says. I'm reading this, and from what he's saying, it almost makes me feel like those insiders don't really know what they're talking about,
Hmm.
or maybe they're hyping it up too much for clicks. Because from what he's saying, you know, not everything the insiders were hyping up would fundamentally change the game.
Yeah.
Todd is more like it's more Starfield, but like better quality, I think. And that's kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. Where okay, so there isn't really like I'm not really excited for it now. Again, I will see the updates. I will judge for myself, but I'm no longer expecting a whole new revolutionary Starfield, and that's not something I needed personally. I loved Starfield. I put 40 plus hours into it. I did all the faction quests. Like I played that game how I wanted to, like a cop with a sword and taking everyone. Like I really vibe with Starfield. I don't vibe with Fallout. I do like Elder Scrolls. So like Starfield for me was what I wanted from it. I was perfectly happy. I know that's not everyone's experience, and I'm not saying it's a perfect experience. Like
Mm.
there are a lot of loading screens. It is a lot of fast travel. I completely understand a lot of those things. It just never affected me and took away from my enjoyment of the game. Um, it's not even a game I have access to anymore because I did play it on Game Pass, right? Like and that sucks because maybe one day I rebuy it, but like I would have to buy it on the Xbox app, and I kind of would want it in Steam, so I'd have to restart. It's like a whole thing now that I've left the Xbox console behind. So if I was to jump into it, it would be a brand new Starfield experience for me because I'd be starting from scratch, and maybe that's what they're intending. I don't know. I'm not over the moon excited like oh my god Starfield 2.0 because I don't see it being a huge cyberpunk as you were comparing it to, or No Man's Sky when they came back, right? Like, and I don't think it ever needed to be that. Starfield, despite people's, you know, criticisms, I think it's sitting at like an 85 on Open Critic or something, like mid
Mhm.
80s. It did review well. It did sell pretty well, especially for considering a game that launched into Game Pass. It did sell a few, like 5 million or something copies right at launch. So it is one of the better selling Xbox IP this generation. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens with it, but I'm not super excited for this.
Yeah, and I think with the inherent hype that comes with a lot of Bethesda game announcements, reveals, releases, because of how they typically like to do it, where they sort of announce it and it's then very close, with the exception of Elder Scrolls 6, and I guess Starfield to a lesser extent. Um, I think that it is smart for Todd to get out ahead of this, because the narrative could have run away even more than it somewhat already did, with the 2.0 discussions. And I think that having those expectations a bit more in check for when they do actually reveal what this update is, alongside presumably the second expansion, I think that that's going to give it at least a better odds of succeeding or connecting, because people aren't expecting the world.
He said we're going to see it soon. Do you like in the next couple of weeks? I imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because the rumor was that, are they going to show it at the state of play or something? Because they're trying to sell it to that audience, and obviously that didn't happen. So I guess,
I think it's a
unless there's
blog
some
post.
other event that we don't know about, I assume that they're just going to do their own separate thing and sort of blog post it and have a YouTube video go live, and
Mm-hmm.
which is fine, I guess. I don't know exactly what they're expecting. I still probably expect Starfield to do relatively well on PS5.
I think it will.
Um,
I just because there's Bethesda diehards that are going to buy it no matter what.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I assume we'll see that. If it is releasing in April, we are going to kind of sort of have to see it so that people can lock in pre-orders. I assume they're going to, again, as much as I detest it, do the early access thing that they put on Xbox. I'm sure they're going to do that with PlayStation as well.
Are you think so? They didn't do it for Avowed.
No,
In
but
fact, they
they
dropped the price for Avowed. Are they gonna? You think?
sure.
Do we see a Starfield price drop?
I think that's more an indictment on Avowed than anything else. I mean, they did early access with Forza Horizon, right?
Oh yeah,
So
that's Forza Horizon, though.
but still, I think that if it's more of a surefire bet that they probably know they're going to get decent sales off of, they'll try and milk the audience, especially with the idea of this port dropping alongside the second expansion. If they're doing like the premium / deluxe version of the game that comes with the expansion, I would imagine that 48-hour or whatever early access is probably also one of the perks included in that.
Yeah, we'll see. Again,
We'll see.
I expect to hear about this relatively soon. I would
Yep.
next week would not surprise me.
Yeah.
He also talked about Elder Scrolls 6, gave us some new details. He unfortunately did say it's still a ways off, everyone. But he did say Elder Scrolls 6 is going to return to Bethesda's, quote, classic style of games. Again, this comes from the Todd Howard interview. He says, where is it? Players can expect to return to Bethesda's classic form after the studio took, quote, creative detours with both Starfield and Fallout 76. Quote, we do have a certain style that we like and that our fans like that we want to get better and better at. I think in some ways Fallout 76 and Starfield are a little bit of a creative detour from the classic Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Skyrim, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Oblivion, where you're exploring a world in a certain way. And as we come back to Elder Scrolls 6, that's what we're doing now. We're coming back to that classic style that we've missed, that we know really, really well. He says that they've spent several years improving Creation Engine 2, which was used on Starfield, and bringing it up to Creation Engine 3 to power Elder Scrolls 6 and beyond. Later in the interview, he adds, quote, the majority of people who made Skyrim are still here, while new faces have also joined the studio, bringing experience from other studios to lend to Elder Scrolls 6. Again, although it was announced 8 years ago, it is still a long way off. How you feel about that, Sam?
I look forward to playing it when I'm 72.
That's Fallout 5.
Sorry, yes, of course, that's right. 71 is what I really meant for Elder Scrolls 6. That's still how far away it is. They got a quick turnaround between the next two games, so that's good. That's all that matters. I'm still
Dual
waiting
development.
40 years.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No, I mean, I was having this conversation in the Discord over the past couple of days about Elder Scrolls 6, and in relation to Starfield, I think was the beginning of the conversation. And to be fair, this interview has somewhat reassured me. I have pretty staunch criticisms of the way that Bethesda's game design has been going over the past few projects. Even Fallout 4, with the voice protagonist and the removal of like truly unique weapons in favor of like this sort of grindable, randomized, legendary thing. I don't know that quells those sort of concerns, but I appreciate that it seems in the classic style of exploring a place, as Todd said, that would suggest to me that in terms of explorable environment, there isn't going to be procedurally generated content like there is in Starfield, that is a positive.
Mm-hmm.
As a plus. That's what makes games like Skyrim and Fallout 3 and 4 so special. And people go back to those games not because they're trying to find new things. It's that they find comfort in the worlds that you've built. And I think that's the lesson that they should take away. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm a massive Elder Scrolls fan. I love Fallout as well, but Elder Scrolls is really where my heart lies with Bethesda. And yeah, I'm interested to see, as we presumably learn more about the game over the coming years, exactly what Todd means by returning to that classic style. I still expect procedural content to be involved in some way, whether that is just the weapons, whether that's the Radiant quests, the repeatable infinite content that they've introduced in Fallout 4 going onwards. I expect that stuff to be there. I hope it isn't. Is base building still a thing? I hope it isn't.
No, I hope not.
I know those are optional things, but it takes up it dedicates a lot of game mechanics, and the world design has to be built around those things. I'd rather them not be barriers to prevent them from creating something special. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm more upbeat about Elder Scrolls 6 than I was even 48 hours ago.
I've been excited for Elder Scrolls 6 as it was announced. I love Skyrim. I like Oblivion. I like Morrowind. Like I'm in on fantasy RPGs like this. I really, again, Starfield was a win for me. So like I've been excited. I'm a little concerned that he says it's a long way off still, because what do you mean by long? I think most of us were expecting this to be a launch title with the next generation of Xbox consoles, if not within the at launch within the first year, like 2027, 2028. Like I assumed it was coming around then. If this is a 2029 2030 game, that's a little less exciting and actually detrimental to me, I think, because that's a little way too far. I like that he says we're going back to a classic style. It makes me feel like they recognize that this is what fans want. And I'm not even saying I'm a traditional fan, because I've learned over the years I play these games much different than everyone else. Apparently everyone else is like, screw that main quest over there. I'm just going to walk around and see what I find, which is not how I play these games.
Whoa.
I play the game. I'm like, oh, side quest, main quest. Like I go off towards the directions. If I find something along the way, great. But I'm not just wandering the world aimlessly looking for stuff. So like I play these games very differently than most. And maybe that's part of the reason why I didn't mind Starfield as much, because I'm not going to planet X and like, what's on this planet? Oh, nothing. What's on this one? Nothing again. Like that's not what I was doing. So that's not what I expected. That's not what I wanted. So but I'm glad that's going to get back to what they're known for and what fans are excited for. I really want to see what they've been working on. I had thought maybe this summer showcase we would see a glimpse. Now I'm fairly certain we're not going to see Elder Scrolls this year.
Yeah, I imagine as well, and we've always been under this assumption. I imagine that with what Todd has said today, sort of reaffirming his beliefs, I assume even more so off the back of the Oblivion remaster Shadow Drop, that Todd really doesn't want to speak about this game in a public setting until it is like it's out tomorrow kind of situation, you know?
Hmm.
So in an ideal situation, I'd love to just get an update on it and just sort of touch base and see a little bit of it running in engine or whatever, but that's not the way that Todd likes to operate, and I would wager that he probably still has a lot of cachet. Um, like they know Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna sell regardless of when they show it. So I would wager we won't see it for at least a year from now, at
Hmm.
least. And I think even that might be a little bit optimistic. I would say I think I feel that it's a 2028 thing. I'm gonna be slightly
I'm fine with that.
optimistic.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers
Uh,
crossed.
but hey, check me in 2 years' time and I'm probably wrong.
We'll find out. I think that was all the headlines that came out of that interview, though, unless there's something I missed. Otherwise, Sam, I think it's time we wrap up this show. We actually had maybe our largest audience ever for this
Hell yeah.
episode. So thank you guys so much. Again, if you are new here, please subscribe, follow over on, if you're over on the Twitch side, hit the like button. We are live every Thursday on YouTube, Twitch, Save the Game Media. Appreciate everyone checking out the channel. Sam, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date until next week?
Yeah, well, I mean, people can find me crying into my pillow holding my copies of Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls. But other than that, people can find me anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, Heaney.
And you can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 1 to 7 I, O instead of an A. Follow us at Save the Game Media over on Blue Sky to stay up to date with all of our latest. Until next week, we will see you. Goodbye.
Peace.